I call the plaintiff Kristen Newby.
Okay, Ms. Newby, we'll have you raise your right hand, be sworn in, and then we'll proceed.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Newby, can you tell me if you are currently employed?
I'm currently laid off. I am employed, but I'm currently laid off.
Okay.
I guess if that makes sense.
Can you speak up?
Yeah.
Did the court hear that, Your Honor? I can have her repeat it.
Yep, I heard it.
I
Okay.
did not hear it. I did not hear it.
Okay, I've asked her to speak up. So are you currently employed?
Yes.
Speak up.
Yes, I am employed
Where are you employed?
at J&K Enterprises.
And what is J&K Enterprises?
It is a tax company where they do taxes.
They pack what?
They do taxes, like your personal income tax.
Oh, tax,
Financials.
okay,
It's a financial business.
okay.
And you indicated that you're currently laid off from your employment.
Yes, until January 15th.
And what is the reason for the layoff?
My boss has had surgery.
And are you returning in January to employment with J&K Enterprises?
Yes.
And what other, do you only help her with the office, or there are other tasks that you do for your employer?
There are other tasks.
Okay, and what are those?
I do her house cleaning, landscaping, and she is handicapped. So I helped her decorate her house for Christmas this year. Just little things.
And so you do those tasks in addition to also helping her with administrative work?
Yes.
What is your hourly rate of pay?
$14 an hour.
And do you know how many hours per week you traditionally work?
During the busy hours, which are from January until June or July, depending on how many back tax returns she has to do. Or extension she has to do. I work 5 days a week. I did before I started in March. So I started right at the end of her busy season, was what she would say. So I only worked 4 days a week to start. And then when we start back up, she would like me to work 5 days a week for the busy time and 3 days a week for her off season, which is like maybe the end of July through January 1st after the holidays.
Even with the additional services that you provide to her, such as the house cleaning or other tasks around her business or home, is that on top of 20 hours, or is that to get you the total of approximately 20 hours per week?
That would be on top of the 20 hours. The 20 hours would be in her office, which is downstairs. Like she has an office in her basement, and then the rest of the time it would be added on for a weekend or whenever I can squeeze it in, pretty much. She just asked me.
Okay, and you
Flexible work, basically.
and you started this work March of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. When did you work prior to this?
I worked, I cleaned houses over time of my girls being from age, like, I want to say 4. I'm not really positive on the age, but until I would say the end of 2021, or when I started working at J&K. Before that, I worked for a Holiday Inn Express. I worked for Meyer, and I worked at the Arby's in Albion and the Arby's in Marshall.
From when your daughters were approximately 4 years old until you started working at J&K, was your sole source of employment house cleaning?
Yes.
Do you recall how much income you earned during that time?
No, it wasn't regular. It was basically when they needed me, or it was just never regular. So I can't say. I'm not sure.
Okay. And is it your understanding that you and Mark agreed to this type of arrangement with your working?
Yes.
And what, besides the $14 an hour, what is your highest rate of pay been, if you recall?
I'm not sure. Maybe 14 would be my highest.
14 is your highest that you,
Probably.
And what is your level of education?
I graduated high school.
Graduated high school? Did there come a point in your relationship with Mr. The defendant, sorry, I don't want to mispronounce his name, where he no longer was agreeable to you staying at home with the children?
There was multiple arguments that we had about me getting a full-time job.
And this was during your relationship?
Yes.
Did you indicate to him that you would get a full-time job?
There was multiple times where I would apply for a full-time job. I know I was offered a job at Gordon Elementary as a paraprofessional, I believe it's called, and I was unable to take that job. I'm not sure why the reason why, like what the argument was at that time, but I know that it was almost impossible for me to apply for a job with his work schedule, with him working and sleeping. It left me almost zero options.
So you would attempt to find it, I don't know why that's so much feedback. So you'd attempt to find a job and then you would subsequently not take the job?
There wasn't many times that I would try to get another job because I knew that it wasn't going to work for our family in the way that we had everything set up as me being the stay-at-home mom and him being the financial provider. I just know there was multiple occasions where we would fight about me getting a job, and then I would ask him, like, where do you want me to work? Where is a good place for me to get a job? And then I ended up finding one that was great for me and my children and our children. So,
And that was this thing?
yes,
Okay. And you started working around there around the time of the separation?
yes,
Okay. So is it correct that you separated in 2018?
yes,
And did you move from the home at that time?
yes,
Okay. Did the children come to reside with you during that time?
yes.
And approximately how long were the two of you separated?
I believe we were separated for probably, I think I had my apartment for 2 months. I think we were separated for maybe a month.
And you moved to an apartment and the children came with you?
Yes,
And were you and the defendant able to work out a parenting time schedule during that 2 months?
yes,
Okay. And that you believe you were able to come up with an amicable schedule?
yes. The month went very fast and Mark and I reconciled pretty quickly. So I think that it was easier then, obviously, than it is now, because we weren't extremely, the reason I wanted to move out of the home then was the same reason I had been wanting to move out of the home, was the roof is falling apart, the basement is caving, the roof was caving into my daughter's and my son's bedroom, into the living room. I had asked him multiple times to, move with me to my dad's house, or we could move somewhere else to save money, and that way we could save money to get our own home. And he did not want to do that, nor did he want to fix the roof, because it wasn't his home, it's his mother's home.
Okay. And then after you reconciled in 2018, you stayed together until your most recent separation in March of 2022. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. So when the two of you first separated in March of 2022, did you exercise a specific parenting time schedule?
I wouldn't say a specific schedule. My children are extremely active in school and in sports, so I wanted the children to reside with me and keep the same routine and schedule that they had throughout the school year previously and throughout their life. So they stayed with me through the week, and I also told him that he could pick them up whenever was convenient for him and the children. If they didn't have practice that day, he could pick them up and drop them back off at night around 7:30, so I could get them ready for bed. I mainly had them up until summer, until the temporary order was placed.
So during that time, his parenting time was on weekends and in the evenings, is that correct?
Yes.
And why is it that you wanted the children to return to your care in the evenings during the week?
Mark works third shift, and I feel like it's my responsibility to put them to bed, as I'm their primary care provider.
And it's fair to say that he didn't agree with that assessment.
Correct.
Okay. So let's go back to when the two of you were working together as, living in the same home.
Okay.
Okay. And what are some of the duties that you did in caring for the children?
I would do everything as to waking them up in the morning, providing them with breakfast. I would make sure that they had proper hygiene, brushing their teeth in the morning, brushing my daughter's hair, getting their hair done every single day. I would make sure that my children ate a great lunch if they were with me during the day, or if they were at school, I would pack them a lunch to go to school with. I would make sure that all of the tasks throughout the day were done reasonably and efficient. We were always on time. All of their personal needs were met by me.
The defendant testified that every day he was in, or most days, I believe, was his testimony in getting your daughters to the bus stop. Is that correct?
I can say that he did occasionally take Audrey and Bailey to the bus. I took Trenton to the bus stop as Mark was not home yet. And Mark would get home through me getting Audrey and Bailey ready for school. And then there was occasional days that he would take them to the bus or I would take them to the bus, but most days I would be the one to take them.
Okay.
And pick them up.
Pick them up from the bus?
Yes.
Okay.
Or pick them up from school, depending on what school events they had that day, because we live in Albion. So if they had a practice or a game or such, I would go to a friend's house and hang out for that hour instead of the gas back in Albion.
During the weeks when you would either pick them up from the bus or stay in the Marshall area, was the defendant staying with you as well during these days?
No,
In the evenings, who was preparing the meals for the family?
I have.
You indicated that in the mornings, you were making lunches for the children. Did Mark assist with that task as well?
Occasionally.
And did you attend school functions that occurred during the day?
Yes.
Okay, and what would you go to?
Anything that I was able to go to that they offered. If there was a, you know how they have the book fair after school or class parties for holidays, field trips, I would always try to attend every field trip. My kids have always loved me attending those, especially Trenton. Unfortunately, my girls kind of dealt with a COVID situation, so they did homeschooling for a little bit. So we kind of made up our own field trips during that time, and I would take our children to different places then, but I would try to attend anything that the school had to offer. I like to be a part of stuff like that.
Do you believe that you and Mark equally attended these school functions, or was there one more than the other?
One more than the other. Mark worked, so there was times where he could have asked for that day off, or because he asked for days off for other things, concerts and such, but no, not for field trips and stuff.
Okay. And are your kids, you made mention that they're involved in extracurricular activities?
Yes.
Okay. And what are they involved in?
My daughters are in dance and basketball, soccer, baseball, and Trenton is in basketball and soccer and band.
And are both of you involved in helping the kids get to practices and attend games?
Yes.
As far as schooling goes, who attends school conferences?
I do.
Has Mark attended in the past?
Yes, it's been quite some time. I'm not sure I remember him going to one of the girls' conferences, but he did go to Trenton's. We would try to plan, when he worked first shift, we would try to plan the conference time so that he was able to go.
Okay. And do you recall missing any conferences? You?
No.
Would there be occasions where he would attend the conference and you would not attend?
No.
Would both of you be in communication with the school? And this is while the two of you are together. Okay, I'm still focusing on that when two of you are living together. Are you both in communication with the school regarding anything regarding your kids?
No, I am. I was and am.
If a child was sick and they needed to be called in for an absence, who typically did that?
I do.
If do you receive emails from the school?
Yes,
When you are together, would you receive those emails or would you receive them?
I would.
Do you currently know if Mark is receiving those emails from the school?
I do because I signed him up for them. On Power School, you can go into Power School when you sign up your children for school and you can write down email addresses or who you want to be in personal contact with your student, basically.
And you provided Mark's information?
Yes.
Okay. Do the two of you typically agree on the extracurricular activities that the children are involved in?
Yes.
Do the two of you have discussion about those activities?
Yes.
Since you've been separated, do you provide sports schedules
Yes.
to Mark?
Yes, without asking. Without him asking, I still provide them.
Okay. Do you know if he has any direct contact with any of the coaches or any of the directors of the extracurricular activities?
He should have contact with anything on Team Snap, which is an app that is organized for our players for soccer, for basketball. It's an app that you can go on and see when your student's game is, when their practice is, where they need to be at what time.
Okay.
So he is on that. I involved him into that.
Can you explain what do you mean by you involved him into that?
You also have to get a hold of the coach and send an email address and a phone number of that person that you want to be able to be on your student's roster, basically.
Okay, and you've provided his information as well?
Yes.
What about medical appointments for your children? During the time that you and Mark were together and living in the same household, who took care of medical appointments for your children?
I do. And I did.
Okay, I'll get to what does now, but
Okay.
does this include the dentist as well?
Yes.
And then medical appointments, meaning their pediatrician or family practitioner appointments?
Yes.
Now that you are separated, do you continue to still act in that manner and do the medical appointments?
Yes.
Do you advise the defendant about the appointments?
Yes.
There's been a lot of discussion about your son's braces, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And where does he go to? What orthodontist does he go to?
Michael Cabot's orthodontist in Detroit,
And why does he go to an orthodontist in Detroit?
because Michael Cabot is Mark's grandmother's student, and that's where Mark and his grandma and family have always gone for their teeth. Not Mark, because he did not get braces, that I believe, but that's where his family goes, and that's where they wanted Trenton to go.
Okay. Have you taken Trenton to the appointments?
Yes.
To your knowledge, have you taken him to the appointments?
No.
Have you asked Mark to take him to the appointments?
Yes. I believe I'm only asked him twice to take him to an appointment. His brother Matt was also getting braces in Detroit, so there was a couple times where we made their appointment at the same time so that for obvious reasons, they could just ride together and save on the gas.
Okay. And then when you asked Mark to take Trenton to the orthodontist, did Mark subsequently take him?
No,
Okay. Did he provide a reason why he didn't take him or couldn't take him?
I can't believe the exact reason, but his job and he don't have time.
Are the orthodontists typically made during the week, during regular business hours?
Yes,
And so he's not working during this time?
correct.
Now, when your children are injured, who do they typically come to?
Me,
And this is obviously when the two of you were living together, correct?
yes.
Okay. Do they ever talk to their dad?
Yes. They do look to him for comfort. I remember a time where Bailey got her ears pierced, and directly after she wanted her dad and wanted him so bad and just hugged him. So there has been times where they have wanted him due to feeling pain, but I think they've always came to me because they know that I'll fix whatever's wrong if I can.
And have they come to you, or what about when they're with their dad and they have, obviously now that you two are separated, has there been an occasion where where you've been contacted due to an injury or illness?
Yes.
And who's contacting you?
Mark has and his girlfriend has.
And they're reaching you for assistance?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you typically do?
There's been multiple times where I went and picked up my kids because they're sick. I do prefer them being with me when they're sick, as they prefer to be with me as well. There's been a time where Bailey, I don't know what happened necessarily. She jammed her finger, it got shut in something, and it ripped her wart off. So she was screaming and wanting her mom. And Mark basically, when Maddie got a hold of Mark, he told her no, to not get a hold of me. And she basically,
I guess I'm going to object to the hearsay unless there's a foundation laid.
okay.
Sustained.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you have to stop talking. That's fine. So continue, and you cannot testify as
Okay.
to what somebody else said.
Bailey's wart got ripped off her finger. So I got a phone call from Maddie to come over to their house to calm Bailey down and see if she needed to come back to my house or to see if it was okay, because it was bleeding pretty bad at first and she was crying pretty hard. So they called me to come over and I went right over.
Okay. Have you had to, when the children are in your care, have you had to reach out to Mark if the children were injured or ill for his assistance?
No.
And have you been able to take care of their needs if they have been injured or ill while they're with you?
Always, yes.
Okay. Explain the ways that you show love and affection with your children.
There's been multiple mornings that we wake up and I sing a Good Morning Beautiful song to my daughters. I wake up my son by kissing it's like the theme song to the football. Dun, 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 dun. I basically kiss his cheek to that. That's like our little ways. I show them affection by being that face in the crowd at their basketball games that they're looking for. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I show them love in every way, shape, and form that a mother should show a child love. And that is by being there for them day and night, providing them love and care, proper hygiene, proper everything, being there for their school needs, studying spelling words on the way to practices. I show them all of my love and affection, every bit of it.
And do you think you have a strong bond with your children?
I do.
And can you explain the bond that they have with their dad?
I do believe they have a bond with their dad. He has been around since they were born. I don't know how strong it is. I don't feel like my kids are comfortable going to him about certain situations. They've always came to me. My son still comes to me about personal things where I have to tell him, hey, I think this is something you should probably talk to your dad about. You're 12 now. But I think my children have a great bond with their dad.
Okay. And when it comes to the, I guess, discipline, when you have to discipline your children, were you and Mark typically on the same page?
Yes, I was mainly the disciplinary one as well.
Okay. And how did that come about? You were the main disciplinarian.
My kids listened to me. Threats made to children, if you don't do this, I'm going to spank you, and then not spanking them. Or I think over time that my children just knew that when mommy said this, that's what she meant. I think that, I don't know, I guess I'm not sure how I became the main disciplinary one. I'm more in charge. I guess I'm more intact of what I think my kids should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And he's more of a go ask your mom, go tell your mom, or Kristen, this is what's going on. And so that's just how I kind of just became the main disciplinary one.
Okay. But you don't disagree with any of his disciplinary techniques?
No, I wouldn't say, because we mainly did them together.
Okay. And when it comes to, I understand, the attending school conferences, but what about helping children with homework, ensuring that their bags are packed? Would you do that, or would the defendant do that, or both?
I would do that.
Okay. And what are some of the things that you did to assist with schoolwork?
I would, anything that needed to be studied, I would study with my kids, even if we did have a practice to attend. There was multiple times where we were eating dinner at the soccer field or studying spelling words at the football field. I guess when COVID happened, I was the main person that did all of the schooling for my kids for COVID. That didn't work out very well for us and my daughters, but we still gave it a go. I guess I'm in charge of all of it. If my son is slacking on a missing assignment, we don't really even discuss it anymore. I screen capture it on PowerSchool. I send it to him. He screen captures when the assignment's done, and then we move on from there. So everything to do with my students' school or my kids' school needs are met by me.
Okay. And when it comes to, you've mentioned that, you were providing meals and the such. Is it that Mark was, never fed your kids?
No, he just doesn't cook. So I've always been the main person to provide all of the meals.
And what about the grocery shopping for the family?
We would mainly grocery shop together. I think even after he started working third shift, there was a time that Mark and I were in a bad place at the wrong time. So I had anxiety about being alone at the grocery store. So mainly most of the time, I think 99% of the time we shop together.
Okay. And if it came to purchasing, this is when the two of you were together, when it comes to purchasing clothing for the children or getting them their uniforms? Who predominantly does that?
I did.
What would Mark do, if anything, when it comes to those things such as providing clothing, for sports, buying clothing, washing clothing? Did he do any of those, I
Then,
guess, chores? Yes, when you two were together.
no, I mean, if our kids needed something, a uniform or something, I would tell him and it would be bought. I would buy it, or he would give me the card number to purchase it over an online transaction. But mainly, no, I made sure that they had all their uniforms and everything they needed for all of their sporting events.
What are you and Mark doing currently now that you are separated, when it comes to clothing for the kids and uniforms for the kids?
I buy clothing for my house and he buys clothing for his house. We split Audrey and Bailey's coat and gloves. And then when I asked him about boots and snow pants, he told me no, that he would buy his for his house and I would have to buy mine for my house, which I think is a little insane for a child to have boots for one house and snow pants for the other house and whatnot. As they go to school and get off the bus at the next house, it's just silly to me, but no, we're providing our own stuff at our own home.
Okay. You are currently residing where?
At my home in Marshall.
Okay, and do your children have bedrooms in this home?
Yes,
And do the girls share a room?
yes.
Okay, is that typical that the twins would share a room?
Yes, we gave them their own room for a little while. However, they have chose to sleep in the same bed. So they had their own room and still wanted to be together. So they do share a room.
And then Trent has his own room at the home?
No, he shares a room with another 12-year-old boy, Cameron, my
Okay.
boyfriend's son.
Okay, and then your boyfriend's at home as well?
Yes,
And who else besides your boyfriend and your boyfriend's son live in the home?
his other son, Blake, he is 9 and he has his own room.
Is this the home when you stopped residing with Mark?
Yes,
Okay. Do you have any mental or physical disabilities or conditions that affect your ability to parent?
no,
Do you believe that the defendant has any mental or physical disabilities that affect his ability to parent?
I feel like he has anxiety and that affects his parenting for him to parent alone.
Okay, and can you explain why you believe anxiety affects his ability to parent?
He's always needed help, whether it's been from the time my children were babies or Trenton was a baby up until when I went to Vegas with one of my best friends. He still needed help watching my kids while he has them. So he's just always needed help. So I feel like if Maddie wasn't there or his mom wasn't there, he seeks help from everywhere, from anyone that can help him.
And to your knowledge, has he been diagnosed with anxiety?
He was on Adderall when him and I started dating. In 2012 or 13, I believe.
Your Honor, I guess we're going back beyond the last date, I think. So I'm going to object to this testimony.
Okay. Ms. Terranova?
Your Honor, when you're going through the best interest factors, the court is clearly able to go back as far as they want. The last order really deals with, that issue really deals with when you're trying to show a change in circumstance or proper cause. You can go back to the last order, but the court is certainly free on the issues regarding the best interest factors to go back further.
I don't think that opens the door.
Okay. Well, the court can, if again, you can show it tied to continued, I guess you say circumstances or needs, et cetera. So if you can tie it up, I'll let you go into it, but if you can't, then I'm not going to.
Okay, sure. You testified that you believe Mark has anxiety,
Yes,
correct? To your knowledge, has he been diagnosed as having anxiety?
I would not say yes, because I don't know what his diagnose was when him and I got together. I can't say that it was anxiety.
Okay, so what makes you make statements such as, I believe he has anxiety?
As I was stating, in 2012, I had a job at the Holiday Inn Express and he had called me multiple times that I was working. I had a second shift job that was from 2 to 11 p.m. So I was the only one in the building that was working at that time. He called me on multiple times telling me that he didn't feel safe being alone with Trenton. Fast forwarding to when I had my daughters, Audrey could not breathe, suck and swallow all at the same time. So there was a lot of anxiety with him holding her, feeding her, being around her, just because of course she was little. The anxiety of being alone with the girls and bathing them alone. Just always wanting someone around, he always feels like he needs backup. So that just makes me feel like his anxiety plays a factor in him raising my children and always needing somebody there to help him.
Has that continued? Did those, I guess where you stated he needs a backup or always need another set of hands, did that continue throughout your relationship?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this again. I don't think there's a connection beyond, they're talking about back about, 5 years before the 2016. And there's no diagnosis that apparently is ongoing.
If they can show after, in the last number of years, since the 2016, the court will allow it. Otherwise, I'm not going to consider it.
Thank you, Your Honor. So did that continue where you just testified needing a backup or needing help with the kids? Did that continue throughout your relationship?
Yes.
Okay. Did there ever become a time where you understand that he felt more confident to be alone with the 3 children?
Yes.
Okay. And when did that occur?
I don't remember an exact age. I would say Audrey and Bailey were probably 4 or 5. And even since that time frame, like I stated, when I went on a vacation, he would want somebody to be there with him to help with the kids. He was working or wasn't working, or just somebody to be there to help with meals because he doesn't cook. So I didn't want my kids to eat fast food the entire time I was gone. His anxiety plays a role today and I know that he won't go and get diagnosed for it because he's not afraid of the doctors, but he is afraid of medicine. He does not take medicine. He won't take an ibuprofen if his head hurts. So he's not going to go to the doctor and get on an anxiety, medication or be diagnosed with it. It's just not he don't go to the doctor.
And so what do you think although it's not diagnosed anxiety, but the, anxious behaviors, why do you believe it was stated that they're continuing today?
I'm not sure.
When you were together, were they continuing prior to your separation?
I'm not sure what his anxiety stems from.
No, I'm talking about his behaviors. Did he exhibit anxious behaviors?
Yes.
Okay, and what were they?
Just not wanting to watch his children alone or be with them alone, I guess. Not just for like hours. I would mean for days if I was leaving, or if him and I guess I'm really not sure how to answer that question.
Okay. Other than that, any other possible mental or physical conditions, diagnosis, issues, anything that you have with Mark concerning the children? Okay. Do you believe that you facilitate a relationship with the children and their father?
I try, yes.
Okay. And in what ways do you do that?
We discuss different sporting events and where my kids need to be at what time and what is best for them.
You mean you and Mark discussed this?
Yes.
He's testified that, you, for lack of better terms, withheld the kids from him or didn't have him see the kids. Do you believe that is true?
No, I do not believe that's true.
Okay. So do you two have a disagreement on to what the parenting time schedule should be?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you believe it should be?
I believe the kids should reside with me as they always have. I don't believe week on, week off would be beneficial to my children. I would agree that they need time with their dad. I think every other weekend, maybe starting on a Thursday and not a Friday, would be beneficial for them. Maybe on my weeks, they go over there and see him for the day, and then I can pick them up at 7:30. I think that's what's beneficial for them.
But it's fair to say that we're here today because the two of you have not reached an agreement regarding that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Since you stopped exercising week on, week off with the defendant, what has his schedule primarily been with the minor children?
Weekends, or like he has not had a continued schedule, so it's always been different. I have offered him to pick up the children throughout the day or get them after school until 7 or 7:30 at night, sometimes 8 p.m. because sports schedules now, they have kids practicing until 8 p.m. So there's been a time or two where I would swing and get Bailey right before Audrey got out of practice, or vice versa. He's able to get them any weekend that he wants, unless I have something planned and I would like to do that, and that's something we discuss, or if he wants them, we discuss that. I have not ever kept them from him in a way that he is making it sound like I'm maliciously keeping his kids from him.
And when he exercises the weekends, what days is he typically exercising?
Sometimes Friday and Saturday and Sunday, sometimes just Saturday, sometimes only Sunday. He works sometimes on Saturdays or tells me he has plans.
And you heard him testify that the two of you were able to work out a schedule during the Christmas break, is that correct?
Yes,
And is that a fair statement that you were able to amicably work that out?
yes.
Okay. As far as domestic violence in the relationship, was there any physical domestic violence between you and the defendant?
No,
Was there any other type of domestic violence or abuse that existed in the relationship?
I would say verbal abuse.
And explain to the court what you mean by verbal abuse.
Someone continuously screaming and yelling at you and you asking them to stop, and them not stopping, or you hiding yourself in the basement of your home in a laundry room and then basically trapping you and screaming at you while you're asking them to stop and go away. I feel like that's verbal abuse.
Did that occur in your relationship?
Yes.
Okay. And was there a specific time period? I know Mr. Schaefer is going to ask when that occurred, or was it throughout your relationship with the defendant?
I would say after 2017 is when things started to get really rocky.
And that's when you recall the verbal abuse starting?
Yes.
And can you give specific examples of what was occurring?
Like I just stated, I was cornered in my laundry room in the basement with him screaming at me after he came home from the bar at 2:00 in the morning. There was a time where him and my children and I went to get Wendy's, and I honestly can't remember what happened that made him so angry, but it was basically Trenton didn't get his Frosty, I think, for his chicken nuggets. And in the drive-through line in front of my children, Mark told me to eat shit and die, bitch. And I think at that time that was like my big wake-up call of this is definitely verbal abuse and I shouldn't be treated this way.
Would the abuse occur in front of the children?
Yeah.
Okay. Were there occasions where the children were not present?
Yes.
And the cornering in a room or a basement, did that just happen on one occasion?
No, I would say, yes, being cornered in the laundry room in the basement, I'd say that only happened one time, but I had been screamed at, and not necessarily cornered, but screamed at in the house where I'd been asked to stop or left the house and went out to the camper to sit down or went to the backfield to get away from him because my children were in the home.
Do you recall on some of these occasions how your children would react when these things would occur?
There were times where Trenton would cry about it. The girls would tell us this. I don't really remember the girls telling us to stop fighting. I feel like I do, but maybe not. I feel like I remember Trenton telling us to stop and he didn't like us fighting. So he wouldn't want us to fight in front of him.
And during these fights that the two of you had, did you ever yell at Mark as well?
Yes.
Okay.
There was times where I definitely yelled back.
Did you ever corner him into a room?
No.
Did you swear at him?
Yes.
Did you ever become physically abusive towards him?
No.
Okay. You are currently separated, so you're not living in the same home. Do you have any instances of verbal abuse from Mark since the two of you have separated?
Probably over the phone, yelling back and forth at each other. Yes. I can't remember an exact statement or time.
Okay. And anything else concerning domestic violence, whether it be emotional, verbal, whatever you want to call it, that occurred between you and Mark during your relationship?
No.
Would he argue with you about not financially providing for the family?
Yes.
Now, there was a text message that was placed into evidence, a Snapchat that was placed into evidence today between you and your son. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have that document in front of you to review?
Yes.
Okay. In that document, who do you believe is holding the phone?
Maddie.
And why do you believe Maddie's holding the phone?
Because her nails are painted.
I'm sorry?
The nails are painted.
Okay. And you heard Mark testify that he's the one that saw that message, correct?
Correct.
Now, have you reviewed that text message that you had with Trenton?
Yes.
Okay. And do you agree that that was an appropriate, excuse me, I keep calling it text message. Do you agree that that was an inappropriate snap discussion with your son?
Yes.
Okay. Is this typical of the discussions that you have with Trenton concerning their dad?
No.
Okay. So was there something specific that led to the discussion you were having with your son?
Yes. My son wanted to go to a Five Finger Death Punch concert with Mark, and it was on my time. And when I had previously asked Mark if my daughters could go to a baby shower with me to my sister-in-laws, and he would not let them go, even though he was sleeping and had nothing to do. And my daughters even told me that he was.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sorry.
I agree, Your
forgot
Honor.
about that.
Sustained.
I also asked him if I could pick up my daughters to go to their school conference, and he said no. He was sleeping next door. Audrey and Bailey were at Maddie's parents' house. They live next door to Mark and Maddie. And I asked if I could pick up my daughters, take them to their conference and drop them back off, and he refused to let me take them. He has absolutely no reason as to why he didn't let me take them. I asked him if he was going to make his own conference time, and he said no. Audrey and Bailey were extremely sad that they were unable to go to that conference. They were the ones that were very adamant about making sure that I had made my appointment time to go to the conference. We have gone to their conferences in the past together, and it's a very special moment for me to be proud of them and show them how proud I am, and for them to feel very proud of themselves at their conference. So that is why was such a very big deal to my daughters, and he made them miss that for no reason, just that he was sleeping.
And this was occurring around that time?
So this all happened right before Trenton wanted to go to a Five Finger Death Punch concert. And then, so I got very angry, and that's when I started seeking to see if I even had full custody or if I didn't, because I didn't realize that the temporary order was that indeed just a temporary order, and it ended at the end of the summer. I thought that I had to make or that there was just going to be a hearing on its own. I didn't know I needed to, I guess, make the hearing or get a hold of you or Mr. Schaefer. So at that point, I started keeping my kids back with me for the week, and went back to how it was before with our schedule. So I feel like I was extremely angry with Mark at that time for him not wanting to let me take my children, but want me to let him have Trenton. Also at that time, Mark decided to not pay for Trenton's braces. He has been the main person that has provided the money for Trenton's braces this entire time. He picked where Trenton was getting his braces done. We were $700 behind on his braces when I called, and I was told that we needed to pay that in order for Trenton to be seen. And when I asked Mark about it, he told me he wasn't paying for it, that he would pay half, and then I had to take him. So anything that Mark has wanted me to do, I have to pay for first, and then he will follow up and pay for or pay half of. But I have had lack of trust in Mark because of him keeping my personal items from me this entire time and telling me, if you sign off on this, I'll give you your stuff. If you give me this, then I'll give you your stuff. So unfortunately, I feel like Trenton has heard and been through a lot with Mark and I on both parties. He's heard a lot, and he is pretty mature. So unfortunately, I probably said too much to him at that time, and I do take ownership of it, and I'm not proud of it, but I guess I feel like I need to protect myself against Mark when he's telling Trenton, hey, you can't go to this concert. Why won't your mom let you go? It's her fault, go.
Your Honor, this is all speculation. There's nothing in proof, and it's hearsay if she's getting it from some other source. Well, I don't know what, I object.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, there's a little bit of feedback. Did you want my response?
Oh, I sustain the objection.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear that, Your Honor. So again, you can't testify to what you think happened or a conversation that you think occurred, okay?
Okay.
So as far as, is this conversation something that you typically have with Trenton, this type of conversation?
No.
Okay. And what you just testified to, the different events that were going on, the arguments between you and Mark, that was all occurring close in time to when that Snapchat was sent?
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe that Trenton knows, I guess, more than he probably should know what's going on between you and his father?
Yes.
Okay. Does communication occur through Trenton when probably you and Mark should be communicating?
Occasionally, yes.
What is the main method of communication between you and Mark at this point?
Text message.
Do you two talk on the phone at all?
No, we have, like, I've had to call him and tell him I'm here, or the girls are here, or he called me when he had COVID, or I think he was wanting Bailey to get tested for COVID, or there's been occasions where we have communicated over the phone.
Okay, but your main method is by text message.
Yes.
There's been some testimony regarding your personal belongings. Are there belongings of yours that are still located in the house in Albion?
Yes.
Your Honor, I guess I'm going to object again. It's probably relevant for the motivation and the conversations, but as to the substantive part of that, I don't think that's subject to this motion.
Okay, Mr. Terranova, what's your response?
Thank you. There was testimony from the defendant regarding where he admitted that he said he was going to throw her stuff in a dumpster, her personal property. So I'm asking her questions regarding that, Your Honor.
That was not from my client, and that was not relevant. I objected to that part of the substantive part.
Yeah, Mr. Terranova, it wasn't from his client. It was from, I can't remember if it was his sister or who it was from, but it wasn't, I don't believe it was his testimony.
Actually, it was, Your Honor. I asked if he admitted to a text message conversation that he admitted to. It was at the beginning of his testimony about that he was going, a text message that he sent to her, and he admitted sending it to her regarding throwing her things in a dumpster if she did not make it, and stated to her, not paying child support and extracurriculars. You want your stuff, come to an agreement by the end of the month, or I will throw it in the dumpster. You
Yes.
recall texting that to Kristen?
Yep.
Okay, and the stuff that you're throwing in the dumpster, it's regarding the personal property that's still in the home in Albion?
Correct.
Okay, and is it fair to say that you made comments to her by text message on more than one occasion regarding she'll get her stuff to an agreement?
Yes.
Well, I don't see it. It's not to say that it's not there. I just wasn't able to see it quick glancing through. How is it relevant to the proceedings, so Ms. Terranova?
Your Honor, communication regarding the parties and facilitating a relationship between the parties, I think threatening to throw someone's personal belongings out if they don't agree to his demands as to custody, parenting time, and child support is relevant, Your Honor.
I'm not
Well,
sure it's relevant.
Property issues in this matter are not relevant, so I'm going to sustain the objection. And if there's an issue, then you're going to have to proceed in a different venue, I guess, than this.
I'm not trying to get her personal belongings back, Your Honor, through this hearing. That wasn't what I was trying to do, or obtain her personal belongings back.
Okay, so what's the purpose of this testimony?
As I stated, the purpose of the testimony of I will give you your stuff back if you come to an agreement regarding custody, parenting time support is relevant to a custody case, Your Honor.
Well, I know there was some testimony about that. The court is not going to consider or take into consideration any potential settlement discussions, no matter how they arise. So I don't see the utility of it at this point.
As far as the schedule that you suggested to the court of Mark having parenting time every other weekend and some days during the week, and you've explained that the weekend could even be Thursday to Sunday. Does that include Sunday overnight?
I would rather it not.
So Thursday to Sunday evening,
Yes.
and then time during the week.
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe that you've been the primary caregiver for your 3 minor children?
Yes.
The week on, week off schedule year round, why do you believe that's not in your children's best interest?
Because my children would be being parented by somebody else when they're with Mark most of the time. I feel like if I'm co-parenting 50-50 with their father, then it should be with their father.
Do you believe at this point, when it was week on, week off, that you were co-parenting with their father?
No,
Who are you co-parenting with?
their father and Maddie, mainly Maddie.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Schaefer?
Thank you. Well, let's work on some of these issues. Let's talk about the week on, week off. Why do you think that you are co-parenting with Maddie rather than Mark?
Because when I have to make arrangements for my children, it's made through Maddie almost mainly.
But
I
do you
feel like-
do you make the effort to talk to Mark
Yes,
and you're not able to?
sometimes no.
Well, in fact, you actually dictated that you didn't want the children over in the Albion property and you preferred them to be at Maddie's house, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and that was acquiesced to by Mark with the kids, as you requested it, correct?
Right?
Let's go back to this Exhibit D and this snap chat that you had with your son. You agree that's totally inappropriate.
Yes.
And you got down and you suggested that, why do you want to stay with your dad? Or weren't you driving a wedge between the relationship of Mark and his son?
Yes, I believe that.
And that was because you got angry about what you thought was unfair about the return of property, the payment of braces payment, and that sort of thing.
Not the return of property, no. It was based off of him not giving me reasonable parenting time on his time and letting the kids go with me on his time as I have let the kids go with him on my time.
Okay, this is getting back at him for a wrong that you thought that he had done in relation to you.
What is getting back at him?
By poisoning the relationship with his son and him by doing this Snapchat.
I don't believe I was poisoning his relationship with him and his son. I feel as if the text is inappropriate, but no, I don't feel like I'm poisoning it, no.
Well, on the first page of that document, it says from you, because if your father's, probably of your dad's decisions, he wants to be a dad when it benefits him, is he going to pay for the braces today? Did you ask him, you're directing your son to ask you about the payment of braces. If he's not going to help with his kids and work with me, I'm not going to with him. Quit asking me until you've reamed his ass about your braces. What kind of parent can take their kid to a concert but can't pay for their braces? So that's pretty vicious against Mark, is it not?
I wouldn't say vicious, no.
Okay. That's certainly not facilitating the relationship between Mark and his son from your standpoint, is it?
No, at this time, Trenton wanted to go to a concert with Mark, and I didn't think it was necessary for Trenton to continuously ask me why he can't go to this concert. And I felt like Trenton was reaming me about the concert. And I'm like, hey kid, braces, your sisters can't go with me. How about school events? How about, so I just feel like I overstepped a little bit, but I feel like I'm constantly having to protect myself from Mark telling the kids like, hey, it's your mom's fault. You can't do this or that.
Well, you're assuming that you didn't hear Mark ever tell your son that, did you?
My son told me that.
You never heard Mark tell your son that, did you?
No.
You said that you live in your home. Where is your home?
In Marshall, Michigan.
What's the address? Who owns that home?
Adam Lafferty.
And Adam Lafferty is the person you're living with at the present time?
Yes.
And how long have you known him?
Since 2016 or 2017.
All right. And are you aware of his mental difficulties?
Yes.
And what are his mental difficulties?
He doesn't have any mental difficulties. He has PTSD from being in the Army, I believe. That's what I've been told. But other than that, I don't know. He doesn't have any.
Well, excuse me. I thought you said you were aware of his mental difficulties.
Well, I'm aware that when I see him, he doesn't have any. So that's what I'm aware of.
Are you concerned for the well-being of yours and Mark's children when they are with him?
Absolutely not.
What permanency do you have in relation to where the children are living with you?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
This home is, who owns the home?
I just told you Adam Lafferty.
Okay, and are you assured that he owns it?
Yes.
All right, and what is the stability from your standpoint of having a place for the kids when you're living with your paramour and he owns the property?
I'm sorry. Is he asking me?
Objection. I don't think she understands what he's
I'm
asking.
not. I don't.
She may not know the definition of paramour, Mr. Schaefer.
Oh, you know the definition of paramour?
Nope, I don't.
Okay. Why do you think there's any stability of living in a home with your boyfriend and whether or not that relationship lasts or doesn't last? What stability does that give to your children as to a place to live?
They have stability in the home that I reside for them because I make sure that they do. They have their own rooms. I have provided the same care that I provided for them in the previous home that we lived in. We have the same routines. I believe that they're in a safe environment.
And the previous home that you lived in was in Albion, correct?
Correct.
And that was a home that is owned by the mother of Mark, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, you talked about some sort of anxiety way back when and whatever. You certainly have had anxiety in the past too, have you not?
I have.
In fact, you told us about one of it in your testimony. You apparently had went through a time when you didn't feel you could go alone to the shopping center.
Correct.
And when was that?
I don't remember the exact date, but Mark and I were present at the Jason Dalton in Kalamazoo. And we were basically caution taped in at the scene of the accident at Cracker Barrel. And that has given me anxiety about being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Are you diagnosed with any anxiety?
No, sir.
You're taking any medication for it?
No.
So you apparently were reaching out for aid or help going shopping then?
No, I didn't reach out for help. It was just something Mark and I always did anyways.
Now, you were criticizing Mark because you said, well, he always has to have somebody there and has to have help.
Correct.
Is it your situation the same thing?
No.
Aren't you having help from your boyfriend at the present time of a place to live?
I wouldn't necessarily call it help. That is our home and I live there as well.
And how are you supporting your children at the present time?
Currently I'm unemployed and I will be starting back up in January. And I did not file for unemployment. I don't know why I didn't. I didn't even think about it. I think I've just been stressed out and overwhelmed with court and focusing on my children. So I didn't file for unemployment.
Okay, well, let me ask the question again. How are you supporting your children at the present time?
Adam's help and I get food stamps.
And have you looked for employment?
No, because I know I'm returning back to work in January.
But your returning back to work is not a full-time job, correct?
Yes, it is a full-time job when I return back in January. It is a tax business. So from January until June or July was when I would be working full-time. For the summer, I would get down to part-time work.
Well, maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you averaged out to 20 hours a week.
I guess during off season, yes, during tax season, I would work 5 days a week.
How many hours a week?
So about 25 hours a week, sometimes more.
Okay, 25 hours a week you consider full-time employment?
Yes.
Have you sought any employment for income since March 1 of 2022?
No, I guess I have looked into other jobs as far as like working at Walters Elementary School. I know that they need a school provider. I'm trying to look for jobs that will benefit my children, but I feel like the job that I have right now and that I'm laid off from until January 15th benefits my children quite well.
Well, when did you get laid off?
I don't know the exact date. I believe it was October of 2022.
So you worked there in the summer?
Yes.
How much time did you work there in the summer?
I don't know the exact amount of time, maybe 3 days a week over summer.
You are aware that there are a lot of other jobs available at the present time that would be available to somebody who wants to work, are you not?
Yes.
At $15 an hour range is available out there. There's many signs out there. Are you aware of that?
Yep.
Have you applied to any of those places?
No.
Do you have any physical or mental disability that would not allow you to work?
No.
Do you have a built-in babysitting care with your boyfriend at the house?
Yes.
Okay. He is not employed outside of the home?
Correct.
He is on disability, is he not?
Correct.
And so he would be available to do that?
Yes.
Do you trust him to care for your children?
Yes.
Is the reason you're not seeking employment now full-time because you don't think you need to because you're being supported by your boyfriend?
No, I think it's because right when Mark and I split up, I found a reasonable job for myself. I don't have my own vehicle or transportation. So I think that with Adam's help of a vehicle and transportation, I'm getting myself back on my feet now as we speak. So I think over time I will be able to venture out of my job ways a little bit.
All right, that was on my list too. You do not have a vehicle, correct?
No, correct. I do not.
So how are you managing the transportation that's necessary for the kids?
With Adam's vehicle.
So again, you have reached out to somebody else for assistance, the
Yes.
same complaint that you had against Mark.
However, when I need assistance, I'm there with my children, and when Mark needs assistance, he's not with his children, or he is and still needs assistance. He
You,
needs assistance with help
okay.
caring for his children. I just need help with them getting a ride to school. So also they get on the bus at my house. So the bus comes to and from my house.
you carry any health insurance on the children?
I have Medicaid.
You have Medicaid.
Mhm.
You are aware that Mark is carrying them on his medical insurance, are you not?
Yes,
And you are aware that he has continuously done that through your relationship.
no, not always.
Well, okay, tell me where I'm wrong on that statement.
He only has had insurance on the kids since he has worked at Tenneco.
So that's 4 years worth, the last 4 years.
Yes,
Let's go back to some of subject matters that came up with other witnesses. We heard testimony about the camping that you did with your friend, the lady that testified. Did you hear that testimony?
yes,
And we heard a lot of stuff there. They said that you only drank a couple, 2 or 3 beers each time. Is that an accurate statement?
yes,
You don't drink beer, do you?
I do.
You drink beer.
I do.
How about mixed drinks?
I do.
And on these camping trips, was it there to have fun?
Yes,
And so you were having fun also along with Mark, correct?
correct.
Okay, were you imbibing in anything else such as marijuana?
Yes.
Okay, and how often would you indulge in marijuana during these 10 trips that we were told about?
I'm not sure. Most of them.
Most of them? And do you still imbibe in marijuana?
Yes,
How often do you use marijuana?
every day.
And is it a medical reason or is it recreational reason?
Recreational.
And how many times a day do you take of marijuana?
I don't know. I would say maybe one time one day and maybe 6 times the next day.
6 times meaning what? You smoke 6 different times? Or are you taking it in a different form?
Like if I pack a bowl and I want to hit my bowl 6 different times in one day, then that's how I do it.
Okay. And who else in the home is using marijuana?
No one.
Your boyfriend's not using marijuana?
No, not anymore.
Okay, that begs the question, when did he stop?
I don't know the exact time.
Well, narrow it down.
I'm sorry.
Narrow it down. Tell us as best you can recall when he stopped.
Within the past month.
Okay, so when did you start living with him?
March.
So it's from March until a month ago, you both were using marijuana in the home.
Yes.
And have you used it in front of the children?
They have came downstairs and I've had to tell them to go back upstairs. I never smoke with or around my children ever.
And so there have been occasions that you've been interrupted and they had to be scurried back upstairs.
I never escorted them upstairs or scurried them. I just told them I'm smoking and you need to go upstairs.
All right, so they know that you smoke marijuana?
Yes, sir. It's legal.
I understand that. Back though, in the last 4 years, it wasn't legal, correct? And you smoked it?
Correct.
Okay.
Mark smoked it as well.
Are you certain of that, that he smoked marijuana at these camping trips?
No, not at all of the camping trips, but previously to, I don't know when Mark quit smoking, but Mark smoked marijuana as well.
Okay, when?
When we started dating, that's how we actually started dating, was we were
Okay,
smoking
from
together.
2016 forward, as he smoked marijuana.
He has hit it, I think, once or twice, but other than that, no.
You don't have any hold with the proposition that you and Mark, shortly after the prosecutor got involved and entered an order, reconciled, I think your testimony was within a month. You reconciled back into the same household and raised these 3 children to the point that they are as of March 1 of 2022. Correct?
What is your question?
Do you quarrel with the proposition that you and Mark have continuously parented these 3 children until the present day?
Yes.
Yes, you agree with that, or you don't agree with that?
I agree that we have co-parented with our children. I don't think that we co-parented the same.
Okay, so you agree you co-parented, but you think that you are doing more than he is why you should be entitled to the physical custody of the children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was he a continuous financially supporter of the family unit and the children, at least in the last 4 years since he's worked at Tenneco?
Yes. He's not supporting my children now when they are with me. He is supporting them when they are with him now.
Okay,
It's
understand
been
that.
that way.
But up to March 1 of 2022 and 4 years back, he had supported the family with a little help from you of some part-time jobs.
Yes, that is what we wanted as a family.
Okay, so he complied with what you, the royal you, he and you wanted for the family.
Correct.
Okay. Don't you believe it would be detrimental to the best interest of the children if Mark, was taken out of their life as substantially as he has been in the life of these children?
No, I don't believe that he has substantially been in the life of them the same as I have. So I don't feel like it's detrimental to keep them the same as I have, because that is kind of how it's been. Mark has worked 3rd shift and has worked a lot of overtime. So a lot of his parenting time has been with extra activities that the kids have, or it hasn't always necessarily been in the home. So.
Well, yours hasn't been in the home either when the kids are in school, correct?
Well, no, because they're in school.
They're in school and you're home alone, or you're out doing something else.
Correct.
So is there a difference of him arriving in the morning and assisting in getting the kids off to school and feeding them, and then sleeping until they get out of school? Is that
I'm sorry,
different?
what is the question?
Well, I was about to get to that point. Okay, listen.
I was getting confused from the start. So
Okay, that's fine. I'll start it over. What's the difference of his participating as a co-parent when he works night shift, gets home, assists in getting some of the kids, all of the kids to school, assisting in breakfast, and then once they're in school, that he sleeps until they come home, and then he gets up again to participate with them? Versus what you do is that you assist getting them up, you assist packing their lunches, assist getting them to school, and then see them when they come home.
Objection is, I don't know if Mr. Schaefer is talking about now what he does with the children, the defendant, or he means when the parties were together.
The parties were together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now I'm confused. So when we were together, you want to know what the difference is of me caring for the children over him caring for the children?
Yeah, that's a good synopsis.
Okay, I took care of all of their personal and medical needs. Mark cared for the financial part of it, but other than that, everything else was primary care by me. If they needed their ears cleaned, that's me. If they needed, help brushing their teeth or clipping their fingernails, that was all me. If anything happened with my children have had lice at one point, that's me. Anything that is primary care for my children is me.
Okay,
So that's the difference.
But you admitted that there were times that Mark would help, that the kids would go to him, that he would support them in their extracurricular activities, that he would assist on the domestic part of raising the children. You still agree that he did those things?
I admit that he was probably a part-time parent and I was a full-time parent.
Well, do you believe that the children love Mark?
Yes.
Do you believe that Mark loves the children?
Yes.
Do you believe that he has the disposition and the capacity to show that love and guidance to the children?
Yes.
Do you believe that he has the capability and disposition of providing sufficient food, clothing, medical care, and other support for the children?
No.
Oh, you don't? And what part of that doesn't he have?
I have always taken care of everything medical for our children, and Mark and I have both agreed on this. It's been something that I think Mark even likes that I take care of all their medical needs and personal needs. I take care of all their school needs, what they need to be signed up for, what they don't need to be signed up for, any registrations, anything like that. That's all me.
Well, okay, listen to the question. The capacity and disposition of Mark to be involved to provide the children with food, clothing, medical care, and remedial care are recognized or permitted by the laws. You
No.
agree that he provides food? Or
I don't
you?
believe Mark doesn't cook. So
Oh.
he might provide the food, but I don't know what he is cooking for my children. He doesn't cook.
Well, but he apparently provides the substance of the food for the household when you guys were together, correct?
Correct. And then I cook the food.
Okay, so the cooking was more significant than providing the actual food in your estimation.
I mean, you can get a raw steak from the store, sir, but you can't eat it unless it's cooked.
Are you suggesting that Mark would starve to death but for you cooking in that relationship when you guys would get together?
No, I would think that Mark would go to McDonald's and eat McDonald's.
Okay, and might take the kids to McDonald's.
Yes, that would be his way of feeding my children, would be fast food, but they have not lived a life of fast food. So that is not what I think is best for my children.
Okay, you use that twice in that two sentences. My children. They're your children and Mark's children, are they not?
You are correct.
Okay. So don't you think that he should have maybe an equal say in some of this stuff, whether or not they go to McDonald's or not go to McDonald's and make that decision?
Yes, I guess so.
Well, okay.
I
You don't
think
have to
he
agree
should-
with it, but he should have an input in that regard, correct?
I guess if he thinks that fast food is what is best for our children.
Okay.
Then I think that I should have an objection to that as their mother.
And if he objects to you, he should have an objection as the father, correct?
Correct.
Now, let's go back to this Snapchat, and we talked about that, but you and Mark had a lot of different texts back and forth, and they contain a lot of things from the standpoint that you indicated that you weren't going to cooperate with him because he wasn't cooperating with you in relation to the children. You recall those?
Yes.
Okay. For instance, you texted him, you cannot have them overnight when you're not there. No one is willing to work with me and give me my stuff, so why should I work with you? Recall texting that?
I don't recall it, but I believe it. Yes.
Okay. You're still keeping my stuff for me and for whatever reason. Don't want to let go or what? And there's just a lot of quarreling between the two of you about the stuff and you keeping the children from him on a regular basis. Is there not?
No, I didn't keep my kids from him because of my stuff.
You kept the kids from him for what reason then?
Objection. I don't believe that there's been any actual evidence that my client has violated an order or kept the children from him.
She just said that she's not keeping it for that reason. I'm trying to find what reason she's keeping it from him.
I'm not keeping his children from him. As I stated before, I've told him when he can pick up his children, he can have the weekends with them. I went back to our previous order before the temporary order, and I think that that's what was best for my children.
So that you went back to the 216 order that you guys had never followed at all. And so in 2022, you said, I'm going to go back to that 216 order. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes, I guess so.
Don't you think that there had been a custodial environment established between you and Mark and the kids over the last 4 or 5 years as to what you were doing?
Yes and no. Mark working third shift made him not as active in our life. So when I moved out of the home, I think it was in best interest for my children to reside with me so we could continue our routine that we always had.
How did the temporary order go that was pursuant to a motion in May, and it was in June, beginning on June 17th, alternating each week? That continued, did it not, until October 28th of 22?
Yes, it did continue. That is when I realized that lack of knowledge of me not knowing that that was a temporary order, that it ended and that I needed to set another hearing. I thought that there would be a hearing set after the temporary order was over. So that was my own assumption. So it's my own fault that I did not realize that I had my full custody back until that date.
So you figured you had your full custody back at that date. Did you make any effort to resolve the continuation of that in the fall pursuant to the order?
Did I make what?
Any effort to resolve the parenting time with Mark, as the order indicated that the parties should try to resolve it in the fall, and if they can't, then it's going to get set for a hearing?
Yes, I did try to resolve it. I don't remember exactly what was said between Mark and I or the exact date or time. But I do remember us both trying to say something and then Mark telling me no, that he'd see me in court.
We've heard some testimony from other witnesses that there was some foul language used at the or at a number of times, including the camping trips. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes,
And you used foul language toward him too, did you not?
yes,
And your foul language to him included calling him a lazy asshole and a piece of shit?
not that I recall.
You don't recall ever calling him that?
I don't ever remember calling him a lazy asshole. No,
What do you recall calling him?
I don't remember.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
Thank you,
Terranova?
Your Honor. Now, Mark's current living arrangements are with his girlfriend Maddie, is that correct?
Yes,
And to your knowledge, does he own that home? Does Maddie own the home?
I'm unsure.
Okay, you don't know if she's renting or if she owns a home?
I believe her parents either own the home or she owns the home.
Okay,
I'm going to object to the speculation unless she knows, Your Honor.
Okay, well,
I know
I
Mark.
assume she
doesn't
doesn't
own the home.
know then.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear. What you
Well,
stated.
she said she thinks, so that she obviously doesn't know. So let's move on, please.
Okay, thank you. And so essentially, Mark is living in the home of his girlfriend, just as you're living in the home of your boyfriend, is that correct?
Correct.
And
Okay.
since the two of you have separated since March of 2022, the only financial assistance from Mark has been the sharing of the purchasing of things for the minor children, correct?
Correct.
Has he provided any additional financial assistance to you?
No,
Do you believe at any point that you have withheld the minor children from the defendant?
no,
Is it correct that you two simply could not agree upon a parenting time schedule?
correct.
Your Honor, I have nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Schaefer, anything else as a result?
Just to follow up, it is true, is it not, that you have not provided any financial assistance to Mark since the separation?
No,
No, that's accurate. You have not.
correct. That is accurate. Sorry.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And so sharing of things for the children, such as the extracurricular costs, that's been shared? Is that correct?
It was, but it was a fight to get that shared. It became a fight when Audrey and Trenton both were signing up for basketball. And I told him,
I just find out what was shared is the question. Not there was a fight, but what was shared? You said there was shared for the minor children.
buying them coats and gloves.
Okay. Okay, no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay.
You didn't really answer that.
Well, Ms. Newby, I've got a question. You said that the defendant has not provided any financial assistance with you since you separated, but there is currently a support order in place. Isn't that correct?
No, sir.
You're saying there's not an order in place from 2016?
There's not been a child support order, no. I mean, I believe there was one, at one point in time. I don't remember when we had child support set. I believe that was back in 2016. And then that ended and we have not had a court order of child support since then.
If I may be assistant, Your Honor, it's my understanding
Okay.
it got waived back at the time they reconciled. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Terranova, your next witness.
Your Honor, I am closing my proofs. I have no further witnesses.
I would call Mark, my client, as rebuttal.
Okay, sir, you're still under oath. You understand that?
Yes,
Let me ask you the general question. Kristen has indicated that she was the one who did 90% of everything of raising the kids. Is that consistent with your recollection of what's going on?
I wouldn't say it was 90%. I say it was more than I did. Yes, being the working father, I was never there. We created what we thought was best for the family, for her to be a stay-at-home mom. I think that's, I wouldn't want to say, I don't think that's how most families work, but it's not definitely of the unheard of the man to work and the mom to stay at home. So I wouldn't say it was 90%, absolutely not, but I would say it was a little more than I did, obviously, because I worked.
Okay, and you did 99% of the of gathering the money for the support of the family.
Correct.
And did you establish a close and loving relationship with your kids?
Asking if I did?
And you still have that?
Oh, absolutely.
And you were able to do all of the required care of the children at this point in time if you have a 50-50 split with the kids?
Of course.
And you have done that during this time period of the temporary order, is that correct?
And then 2 months afterwards, or up until the Father's Day weekend until October 28th, correct.
Okay. Do you believe that she has withheld the children from you at times?
Yes.
Okay, and tell us what your thoughts are on that.
Again, I guess it became more, I think, of the third shift. Why, again, as we asked earlier, what makes a difference if they're here, why I'm sleeping, if the same, if she's at home, why they're at school. I guess I don't understand, other than her say that, she did the most in the past for them. But again, we're going to go back to because I worked all the time. I was the sole provider of the family. I let her stay at home. So I guess that's where I get where she keeps them from me.
Okay.
Or why.
And have you seen and exercised every opportunity you have to be with your kids when they were available?
Absolutely.
All right. And we have heard a lot of testimony about camping trips and drinking and whatever. Did your wife, in fact, smoke marijuana on these trips?
Yes.
Did you smoke any marijuana?
No, sir.
Okay. And we heard testimony about some off-color comments or statements made by you. Did you make some of those?
Yeah, and I think that was in a group effort. I mean, you can't point the finger at nobody. It was all done together.
Together, meaning whom?
Being the group that we were camping with. Sandra and her husband were there as well. Kristen and I, probably more said amongst the males that were with the group, not the females. It was definitely said in front of her kids, Sandra as the witness from earlier, by her husband too, not just me in front of my kids. So I mean, as far as pointing the finger, guilty is guilty for one to the other. Okay,
and we have heard about some name calling from you toward her. Did your wife have some off-color comments toward you?
Would she call me off-color names?
Yes.
No.
Well, did she call you a lazy asshole?
Oh, yes, yes, lazy asshole, piece of shit, because I worked and I was tired, and obviously I didn't do as much as she did. Cooking dinners and stuff, I participated as much as I can. I would do the dishes, I would sweep the floor, I would take the trash out. It wasn't definitely 90% of her all doing, by all means.
She indicated that somehow that Maddie was involved in this Snapchat. How did you come across this Snapchat again?
So it was Trent had left his phone open one day before he left, and we had picked the phone. I was like, oh, well, I'll just scroll. And I had taken the pictures off my phone. I have other pictures with my hand in them, but I had her take a picture of them so that way, and in case they were lost on my phone, I still had them as evidence on her phone. So I have two different pictures. If you want one with my fingernail in it, not painted, I can give you that as well.
Okay. Do you believe that undermined your relationship with your son?
Absolutely. I think it could. Yes. Do I hope it didn't? Absolutely.
Do you still believe that week on, week off is the proper resolution in the best interest of the kids?
I agree.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Terranova, anything?
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you believe that letting your children watch the Zoom court proceeding undermined the relationship that the children have with each of their parents?
Are you speaking to me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, they didn't watch it physically. They were not in the same room. They weren't sitting on the couch.
They didn't celebrate with your family, jump up and down?
No.
Okay.
We celebrated amongst ourselves. The kids know.
Oh,
the kids here
children were just in the home
in the home.
and they didn't hear you?
No.
Okay. The expenses, the only financial assistance that has been given to Miss Newby during this time is sharing of extracurricular activities and clothing. Is that correct?
That's false. I paid, and I have a receipt here where I had Venmo'd them money. I Venmo'd them $95 for coats, hats, waterproof gloves, soft pack of gloves. I sent them $100 a pair for shoes, $50 per daughter.
Correct. Sir. My question was for items. You haven't provided any money just to say, here's child support because we don't earn the same amount of income.
No, but I haven't received it either.
I'm just, oh, you believe Ms. Newby should pay you?
I'm not saying that. But I think, I mean, why am I giving up money here?
Okay.
Because she hasn't worked. I think I
Has
I
there been
paid
an occasion where Miss Newby asked you if she could take the twin girls to a baby shower for Miss Newby's side of the family?
Yes,
And you denied her that opportunity, correct?
correct.
Is it correct that you were not doing anything with the girls that day and you were sleeping?
Your Honor, I think this is beyond redirect. It has to be a response to
Well-
what I brought up for rebuttal. I didn't bring anything up in rebuttal in that regard.
I know, I'm gonna be a little bit liberal on this, I guess, and allow her to get into it, but I'll let you go back if you wish to, Mr. Schaefer.
And Your Honor, I'm keeping it limited just to the issue of if people were withholding children, that's it.
Okay,
And you've indicated that you've exercised every parenting time that has been provided. Have there been any occasions that Miss Newby indicated to you, you can come pick the children up after school and bring them home? And you've
Yeah.
chosen not to do so?
No, not that I've not chose to, no. They have been here after school. She has picked them up on numerous times. And then again, after the October 28th, it's back to the weekends because she has that sole physical custody as that we did obey by from 2016.
My question was, has she offered you times since then to get the children and you either have not, and you have not picked them up or exercised parenting time?
No,
So then essentially she has never withheld the children from you.
I mean, I'm not going to deny time with my kids. So the little bit of time I do get for the temporary order, I'm going to take.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Mr. Schaefer,
Nothing further, Your Honor.
okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any additional rebuttal, Mr. Schaefer?
Nothing further.
Okay, with that, Mr. Schaefer, you're closing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, you have a bit of an odd situation here. You have a situation where there was a prosecutor's order back in 2016 that summarily gives sole and physical custody to the mother in this particular matter. But the parties, it's unrefuted that was less than a month that they reconciled and they have lived together and raised these three children together. Did they have arguments? Yeah, they apparently had quite a few arguments along the line, but they raised the children that are 12 and 8 at the present time. The twins are 8. And they continued doing that until March 1 of 2022. So I am suggesting to the court that there is an established custodial environment. And the custodial environment is co-parenting by these two parents. And they have their own function in that co-parenting. It is not an unusual function. It is a very common function, at least historically, is that you have one breadwinner who is the main breadwinner, and then you have the other one who does the hard work of the day-to-day with the kids. And that's exactly what we have here. We have a husband who has a good job, who works hard, who brings home a good paycheck to support his family. And he did that. And he, in addition to that, he had a bond with his children. He participated. He got them up for breakfast. They got them to school. They received them back, and he worked around his third shift. And it worked. It worked for them because they made it work. And now he is being criticized because he didn't go to the craft shows and the other things at school that probably just were not available to him. But he certainly was a co-parent, and he is certainly a full-time dad. And there's a custodial environment that put him in the kid's life that should not be taken away from them. We went through all of the factors of the best interest. And I believe that with that custodial environment, to change that, there has to be clear and convincing evidence to the contrary that should not be continued. And my position is that most of them will come out even on the factors. I think they both love the children. They both have the capacity to give love, and they have shown that. Probably my client has a greater ability at the moment to provide the food, clothing, and medical care. He has carried the kids on his medical care always. He has a job that he's able to provide the food, clothing, etc. The length of time in a stable circumstance, I think they're both kind of in the same boat. They both are living with their new significant other. And maybe that is a good thing, because it appears, at least from my client's standpoint, he has a significant other who has a good relationship with the kids, who has acquiesced to some of the requests of the mother, Kristen, and has communicated with Kristen on the well-being of the children. So I think that's all positive in that regard. Does it make it long-term permanency? Probably not in either one, but I don't think either one really has an advantage in that regard. The long-term stability environment is that these parents have been in the life of these kids all of their lives, from the word go, and they have done what parents do to raise the kids to the age that they are now, and that should not be taken away from either one of them, I'm submitting. The moral fitness, I don't think there's a tip to either side. Mental and physical health, I don't think there's a tip to either side. If was anxiety, which I don't think is admissible back when the children were little, there's no diagnosis in effect. The homeschool environment, I think it's only positive at this point in time. The kids are going to school. There's no indication they are ruffians in the community. So I think that's a draw between the two of them. The preference of the kids, obviously neither attorney knows what the judge received from them. But I wouldn't be surprised that you got a preference of, I wish my parents were together and still raising us, which would not be unusual. J factor is a little disconcerting from the standpoint of the Snapchat and the efforts on the part of the mother to talk to the son about why are you wanting to live with him, because he's not a good dad, because he doesn't pay the bills and this, that, and the other thing, which was totally inappropriate. And that is a sign of her unwillingness to facilitate the relationship with the other parent. Contrary to that, we have heard that Mark has acquiesced to some of the requests that Kristen has made about not living in the Albion home, but living at Maddie's, and that has taken place. So I think there's no indication that he has done anything to be derogatory toward Kristen as the mother of these children, and he has testified that he will and has facilitated that relationship. I don't believe there's any domestic violence. These people quarreled. I mean, we talk about verbal abuse. I think it takes two to argue. If you listen to the testimony, we argued. We said bad things to each other. And I'm not sure that's domestic abuse. It's inappropriate, and that's probably the reason that they're no longer with each other. But I don't believe that the established custodial environment whereby both of these parties have raised these children should be changed. And I think that the obvious thing that has worked from June until October 28th, 1 week on, 1 week off. The kids have gotten to school, they have thrived, and I think it gives them stability of knowing when they're going to be with mom and when they're going to be with dad. And I would respectfully ask that be continued. Obviously, the judge has to address the support issue. We have on the record what my client makes. I'm not sure that the wife has provided everything that she is able to make. It appears she's healthy, she's able to work, and I would respectfully indicate that she should be imputed at least $15 an hour for a full-time job of 40 hours a week in this particular matter. She has made, I don't think, any effort to fill that void of unemployment. She says, well, I'm going back to work full-time in January sometime, and full-time to her is 25 hours, and that goes until maybe May or June, and then it's odds and ends since then. I think there's lots of jobs out there, and she should be imputed. So with that, Your Honor, I'm asking that there be joint legal and physical custody with these three kids and their parents, and that proper support be ordered in this regard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Terranova?
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, obviously this court does know that they need to figure out what the established custodial environment is, Your Honor. And we believe that rests with plaintiff mother. If the definition of established custodial environment where, oh, the parties have resided with each other since the kids were born, then that would be an easy call to make. And that's not what the case law says. That's not what the law is. There are several things that you need to look into more than just they simply live together. Ms. Newby provided substantial testimony. And quite frankly, I believe the defendant admitted that my client is the one that did more of the day-to-day child rearing while he worked. No one faulted him for working. It's just the facts are the facts. They chose, and they weren't married. I know Mr. Schaefer referred to them as wife. They were never married, but they chose that dynamic. And defendant admitted that that was what they thought was best for their children. Daycare was expensive, so my client did not work a full-time job and was there to do the day-to-day child rearing of the children. And she did that, and she did that well. All of the witnesses, I think, testified about my client being a good mother. So in looking at the established custodial environment, I think it definitely falls within my client. And so the burden on Mr. Schaefer to change it to joint physical custody would be by clear and convincing evidence. So that's why my client is requesting the primary physical custody and that she retain that. The facts are that my client has been the one to go to the children's school events. She testified she does the signups, she does the conferences, she does the extracurricular activity sign up. She went on the field trips. She is the one that did the day-to-day care. She refuted the testimony regarding that from the defendant that he was there every morning to take the girls to the bus. She indicated that was not the case. She took the older son to school and that the defendant did help out with some of the getting the twins to the bus. But my client testified it was mainly her. She's the one providing the meals for the family. She's the one doing the laundry for the family. Again, the defendant was involved. And my client did acknowledge the things that he did for the minor children. He did show up to extracurricular activities, but it simply rested, the hard work rested on my client. She did all of the medical appointments, Your Honor. That has not been refuted. When she's asked him to take them to the orthodontist, the older child, the defendant didn't do so. So going through the best interest factors, yes, I do believe that both parties love the minor children. Most parents love their minor children. Most children love their parents. But going into factor B, my client is the one that primarily did the education component for the children, communicating with the schools, going to conferences, and she still continues to do that. As far as factor C, my client has never minimized the defendant going to work and financially providing for the family. But she is also the one that would ensure that the children had prepared meals, had the clothing, purchasing the clothing, doing the laundry, taking them to medical appointments. So that factor, I believe, favors the plaintiff. In factor D and E, we can sometimes look at those together. Both parties have moved on to other relationships, Your Honor. I don't think either one of them have denied that. They are both residing in the homes of their respective significant others. So they're in the same situation there. However, I do notice a difference in the home. Trenton is currently, and has been the entire time that he's been in defendant's care, sleeps on the couch, Your Honor. If you have joint physical custody of a child, I would hope that some sort of bedroom would be provided for the minor child. That has not occurred, Your Honor. So I do think there is a difference when you look at those two factors. And I believe that that favors my client as far as the stability. The moral fitness, I believe that factor was equal. There wasn't much addressed in that one. The mental and physical health of the parties, as far as the witness testimony, it was that they believed that the defendant was anxious when he was caring for all of the minor children on his own, that they believed he had exhibited anxious feelings. So I believe that favors my client. As far as the home, school, and community record, once again, Your Honor, with all the factors that we listed previously, my client primarily did that. That factor favors my client. The defendant does go to extracurricular activities, but all of the other hard work concerning homeschool and community involvement rests with my client. The reasonable preference of the children, I agree, we'll never know what the children say. In regard to the willingness and ability of the parents to facilitate and encourage a close relationship, my client testified that she provides the defendant with schedules for the children's activities, provided his email address and contact information to the schools to make sure he had it. There was no testimony that defendant even did that on his own. He didn't testify that he reached out to the school and provided information. He didn't testify that he provided any information so that he could get school schedules. It's unrefuted that my client is the one that organized that, signed up, and then went further and made sure that they had dad's contact information. So I think that shows that my client is facilitating a relationship and making sure that dad stays involved with the information regarding the minor children. As far as the Snapchat that was sent to Trenton, my client admitted probably not the best thing. She admitted that that wasn't the appropriate way to handle things. She also admitted that that was a limited issue surrounded by a time when the parties are not getting along, arguing over several issues. I also believe that there was testimony that the defendant permitted the minor children to watch the previous court hearing that the parties had in June. I don't believe that's facilitating a relationship if you're letting the minor children watch the court hearing or at least be exposed to it or not ensuring that they are not listening to it. In terms of domestic violence, my client testified, and I believe very credibly testified to some experiences of being backed into a corner, having to leave the home and go put herself in another area, names that were called to her from defendant during arguments. She also admitted that there were arguments where she was a part of it too. But she testified to some very specific events, Your Honor, and I think she needs to be believed on that those occurred. And so I do believe that factor favors my client. As far as the income, my client spent the last 13 years not working full-time by agreement of the parties. In March, she obtained employment that was consistent, that allowed her to be consistent in providing the care for the children that she has provided to them their entire lives. So she has gone out and sought more employment than she has in the past when they were together. So I believe her efforts to find employment are completely appropriate. She's earning $14 an hour. She testified that she's able to supplement if she doesn't do office work. There's other things that she's able to do, such as lawn work and assisting her boss with some personal needs. If we are going to impute her income, Your Honor, the guidelines state that we also have to impute childcare. So if there were childcare that needed to be provided, that would also have to be taken into consideration, regardless if she's able to find someone to care for the minor children for free. If we're going to make up her income, we're also going to have to include that there are going to be outside daycare expenses. What the situation here is, Your Honor, is that my client primarily provided the day-to-day hardworking care for the minor children. Dad is involved. That's why my client's offering more than just the every other Friday to Sunday parenting time. She offered the extended weekend to recognize that he did do, more than just work, but did provide some care for the children. The respective relationships that each of the parties are in, neither one of them, I guess, raised enough issue and they seem to have moved on. So that should not be an issue there. So at this point, I believe that the established custodial environment rests with my client, that continued into the new home that they have, and that it's in the best interest for my client to have primary physical custody, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schaefer, anything else?
Yeah, just a few comments, Your Honor. The testimony is unrefuted that if the childcare issue has to be taken in consideration for the mother, that she has it available at no cost. And that's by her live-in who it doesn't work outside, and he is available according to her. The custodial environment, I reiterate that these people have lived together basically for 13 years, and all the years of the ages of the children. they've raised these 3 kids together. And to suggest that one division of labor is more significant than the other to tip the scale as to custodial environment, I don't think is accurate. And the argument was, well, it includes that she's a good mom. Well, we heard testimony that he's a good dad. And I think they probably both are a good mom and good dad, and they should be kept in that position for the benefit of the kids, not for, and I think there's a little control factor here when I hear from the mother saying, well, my children this and my children that. They're not just her children, they're his children too. And believe it or not, that men and fathers do have emotions and connections with their children, and that should be honored. Those are my comments on rebuttal, Your Honor, and I would also point out that if there's criticism of the Verona house, and that house was occupied because of the request of Kristen, there's testimony also that there is the Albion house available there. These kids were raised most of their life to live in, where they will have more room. But the Verona Road was chosen because Kristen wished them to be there, and that was an indication of an effort on my client's part to facilitate the relationship with the mother. Thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. What I'm gonna do is have you stay on, and we'll get staff and.
Yeah, we have 2 dates.
No, okay.